Shavua Tov, Agut Tavoch. If things look a little bit different, it's because I'm going to do something different tonight. I'm not telling a story of the Baal Shem Tov, but I'm fulfilling what I said I was going to do last week. I'm going to go a little bit into an explanation of the story I told last week, story number 35, Hakitruk al Torah Shebel Peh, the Kitruk is the churches in heaven on the oral Torah. I told the story, which is very long, and I went very fast, and I left many dots without connecting, many things that require explanations, and just ran through. And due to changes in my life, my personal life, I am not, as I used to do, and not given the time to write down the explanations during the week and put them in the blog in my Patreon page. Therefore, tonight I'm catching up with explanations for story number 35. It's probably the longest story in the book, or one of the longest, and it's hard to even connect all the paragraphs to understand what was going on. And there is two things going on. There is one in heaven and one on earth. And how do they connect? So the heavenly problem is there is a kitruk. What is a kitruk is charges, literally, in the heavenly court against the Jewish people because of something very severe, which in the day before Yom Kippur, in Erev Yom Kippur, the eve, the day before, the Baal Shem Tov is extremely concerned about. The churches are putting the body of Jewish knowledge in trial. When Moses received the Torah in Sinai, he did not just receive the written tablets. He did not just receive the word of Hashem to write down every time it says, by David Hashem and Moshe Lemor, God spoke to Moses saying, he's writing this down. He received the revelation of the entire body of knowledge that the Torah contains. The one that is put in writing is known as the written Torah, Torah Shebichtav, and the one that is spoken at the time of Moshe, he can give you an oral explanation, a revelation of the wisdom in words, in spoken words, is called the Torah Shebel Peh, the oral Torah, the Torah that is on the mouth, is spoken. Eventually the sages would write this down, and that is why the oral Torah is written down. How could it be written if the sages who don't want to forget it put the law and the explanation and the wisdom and every detail of it in writing? But the oral Torah continues to be with us in the sense that even when a teacher is explaining the student an answer to a question he just formulated on the Torah subject, that too is part of the oral Torah. That too was revealed to Moshe in Sinai. Baal Shem Tov is concerned about a kitruk in Shamayim, in the heavens, that will cause the Torah to be taken away from us. The Torah, the wisdom of the Torah, the body of the Torah. And without it, how would we survive? The Baal Shem Tov says, between the nations even for half a day. What keeps us alive is the Torah. How could we not have it? What's going on in the world? What historic event is going on that the story makes allusion to? They mention this sect, this cut, they call it, the cult of Shabtai Tzvi. But Shabtai Tzvi lived decades before the Baal Shem Tov was born. The story is talking about Yaakov Frank. The Frankistim, the Frankists, they call the sect of Yaakov Frank, who are Sabbatians, or followers of Shabtai Tzvi, under the new leadership of Yaakov Frank, not in Turkey, not where the original group was, but in Poland. And remember that where the Baal Shem Tov lived at the time was part of the greater kingdom of Poland and Lithuania. And this group is, to say the least, very, very heretical. They have come up with ideas supposedly out of Kabbalah and out of teachings, but really they have come up with like the complete opposite to any Torah concept. And Yaakov Frank is an extremist in his apicursus, we call it. He uses Torah knowledge against the Torah in such a way that he is taking for a ride whomever follows him to become completely non-observant Jews, and is negatively influencing the masses. And so the Baal Shem Tov is extremely concerned. It also mentions a debate, and it mentions the burning of the Talmud. There was not one but two debates around the time where the story is told. We need to give it a specific date so we can make sense out of it. And I'm going to use the notes that Rabbi Yitzchak Holtzman from Kfar Chabad puts in his edition, the one I'm following, of the Shibchei Baal Shem Tov, in which he explains that the story happens in Yom Kippur, apparently, he says, of the year Tav Kuv Yud Chet, 5,518, which would be Yom Kippur of 1759. It would start the year before, 1757, just to make it clear. So this is after the first Vikuach, the first religious disputation, before the burning of the Talmud and the conversion of the thousands of followers of Yaakov Frank to apparent conversion to Christianity, which, as the story tells, the Archbishop of Lvov highly doubts, even though he's the one who accepts them into his cathedral for baptism. So that year, or within a few months of that year, there was a whole tumult. The rabbis, the sages of the time, there is a source that says that the Baal Shem Tov was among them. Many other sources say that's not true. But the rabbis had a big disputation with the followers of Yaakov Frank, and after which Yaakov Frank fulfills, there is a historian that tells the story, he made a deal with the Archbishop of Lvov that he was going to bring the Jews for conversion. And the Archbishop doubted that it could be done. And he brings 3,000 of his 3,000 followers or something like that, and they wait online to be baptized. That's what in the story says, that the Archbishop would cut one of their payas and half of their beard. The Torah says that we are not to cut the side locks, the size of the head, and most likely these Jews actually grew them long and in curls, as some Hasidim do today, and that was so obvious, so the Archbishop cuts one, not two. Okay, you're not a Jew, but I don't really believe what you're doing. The first event that happens, and it's called the Reshimu. The Reshima, I was confused when I saw it. I thought it was a list. No, there is a kabbalistic concept, a imprint, a mark of the place where the Gezerah, which means the decree, was left in heaven, ready to be passed in Yom Kippur, when the Baal Shem Tov gets it to be nullified. So that mark of that decree that was already nullified is what causes the burning of the Talmud in Kamenets-Podolsk. This is a historic event. The Bishop of Kamenets-Podolsk does take the Talmud. The story says bought it or took it by force, but paid for from the Jewish tax collector of the town. And when he is throwing the books in the fire, it bounces back and he becomes burned and injured. and he's taken to town, but he dies on arrival. He never succeeds at that. The Baal Shem Tov is very concerned about the rabbis. What does this mean? The rabbis who gave their approval. The hakdamah is the introduction to books that introduced, that were helping out the cause of Yaakov Frank. That's his concern. That's why the Hakdamot sheker, they are lying. He knows they're lying. How could you sign on such a thing? Did they pay you for this? And the story of the guests that the Baal Shem Tov is so upset about is because he connects these guests with his rabbis. And he's just so upset. But his wife, tells him they are not them, divides. And the Baal Shem Tov will apologize to them. But he's so upset about what these people have caused and the lesson of the story. Why is the Baal Shem Tov concerned about some Jews becoming heretics and leaving Judaism? And he says every Jew is a member, like a limb, of the divine presence in this world, the Shekhinah. Shochen is to dwell. And this is the Baal Shem Tov concern. You're cutting off a limb of God's presence in this world when you allow a Jew to abandon Judaism in such a way. That's the bottom line of the story. Regarding the words I use in Hebrew, I'm not going to go deeper into the concepts. I think I should write them down. It's such a long list. There is Kitrok, which is the churches in heaven. There is the Divrei Kibushim, the words that the Baal Shem Tov does to try to get to the heart of people. Aron HaKodesh is in the synagogue, the place where we keep the Torah, the Ark of the Torah. Rabbanim are the rabbis. Hakdamah is an introduction. Hakdamos sheker are the false introductions, how the Baal Shem Tov told them. You're signing on something and writing something as if it's a book. You're giving the approval to a book that is completely false. Tanaim and Amoraim are the sages of the Mishnah and the Gemarah, the ones who wrote the first compilation of the oral Torah in legal form. The Tanaim and the Amoraim are the sages that discussed and expounded on that to put together the Gemarah, the discussion part of the Talmud. The book that was burned, the Talmud, was their work. That's what they are in trial in heaven. Kol Nidrei, at the beginning of Yom Kippur, is a plegaria, the prayer, mixing with the Spanish, that we do before Yom Kippur, or the beginning of Yom Kippur, to nullify our promises before God that we didn't keep, that we forgot, that we'll do. But it does not include personal promises we've done to people. We're still responsible for the people we promised them to. Tefillah is a prayer. Baal Tefillah, Baalei Tefilot is the people who direct the prayers. The last prayer of Yom Kippur is called Ne'ilah, literally the closing of the lock. You lock a gate, and that's why the connection with the gate in heaven being locked before these prayers can go in, and the Baal Shem Tov working out to get it to be open to the prayers, not just from this year, for the past 50 years, to go in and be accepted. The other things I will write down, one more concept, one more part that is really important to understand. Who is the Baal Shem Tov's teacher, Rebbe, in heaven, that intercedes with the Baal Shem Tov and takes him to the heavenly palace of Moshiach? So it says his teacher, his Rebbe, and the source of it is in the Talmud Yaakov Yosef, and in the Keser Shem Tov, I have the book here. It's one line. Moreinu HaBaal Shem Tov, our teacher the Baal Shem Tov, hot mekavel geven von Achia Shileni. He received the Torah and all the body of knowledge from this spiritual teacher who had been a prophet in the time of the first temple. Achia, from the town of Shiloh, Achia Shiloni. The sources and commentary, I could give a whole shiur on that, are the whole page in the Keser Shem Tov. But that's the bottom line of the story. Next week we continue with story number 36. For my time and effort, I appreciate all the help you can give me. believe me, I do appreciate it. It will help me dedicate more time and put together more toward the explanation, but also toward the translation of the Shibchei Baal Shem Tov into Spanish, to bring this part of the public a source that they haven't had yet on the stories of the Baal Shem Tov. Shavua Tov, a gute Woche.